Welcome to Bring Out Your Badass Self, a movement to break your negative thoughts and habits and instead focus on building each other up and encouraging fearless authenticity.
Each week, we will get vulnerable and share experiences alongside our guests and audience. Come rediscover your inner badass self.
Good morning.
Good morning, badass. How are you?
I'm doing good. I just realized a mistake I made. So, I did the 54th episode, but then I forgot to change the graphic in the little video. So we're not talking with Pardeep today. It
Not
is going to
again.
be about renewal and release. And so, those things happen.
Right? Totally. I mean, you called. I mean, you didn't post it till last night, so I think
know.
our audience will be like, "Yeah, that's fine."
Oh, well, good morning. Good Friday morning to everyone. And holy shit, the release is happening. It is the beginning is today for the rest of our life. And
Yeah.
I'm super excited about this topic. And Kate and I are going to get into some really good stuff. But before we get there, I just want to say hello to everyone. And I would love for you to say hello to us. Also, if this is the first time that you are joining us, we'd just love for you to add a white heart or just a heart. If there's no white heart, just to let us know that you are there. We'd love to hear all the people that are there. And if you're joining us, and you're a regular, of course, to say hello. So we just want to hear from you. And it looks like we do have some people coming in. So Miss Kim, good morning and happy Friday to my favorite beautiful badasses. Kim, we love you.
Yeah, thank you, Kim. Give us an update on how Dad's doing. Her dad had a surgery yesterday.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I hope everything is going well.
Yeah, she was getting good updates. I just didn't get a final update. So
I gotcha. And then Bruce, morning badasses.
Morning, Bruce. So good to see you.
On a LinkedIn user. So thank God it's Friday, badasses. So I'm not sure who this is. You'll have to go to, I think you have to get permission. And there's a specific way to get permission on LinkedIn. And so welcome, whoever that user is.
Yeah, thank you. Thank God it's Friday indeed.
Mm-hmm.
J-Ro, good morning, J-Ro.
She said also, thank God it's Friday.
Yeah. So, right? It's been a week.
It has been.
It's been a year. It's been a year in a week. Good, Kim. Yeah. Wonderful.
That's awesome. It's Alan. He said it's Alan. So
hi, Alan.
It's great to see you, Alan. And so as we have more people coming in, just continue to tell us hello. And so I started things off with the beginning is today.
Yeah.
And I want us to dig in a little bit about beginnings. But before we get there, I wanted to sort of pose a question to people. And Kate, I would love for us also to talk about this ourselves. And so if you could do anything, what would it be? And what gets you most excited? And so I think when we think about beginnings, it's really about first understanding what we actually want and need and what our soul needs to be able to be the best version of ourselves. And so, Kate, when you think about what, if you could do anything, what would it be? What gets you most excited?
When I just think about helping people. I don't have a specific thing in mind that's going, but I feel the best when I know that I've helped someone. And so I know it'll involve talking, right? In some way. Because that's my skill. But helping people, that's when I feel really my best. I feel like, one time my dad said this to me, and I will always remember it, but he once said, I think you're here for something special. And
Oh.
and I've always felt this kind of, this special thing that I feel, and so I think it's about helping people.
Mhm.
And I try my best to do that in my little community, but yeah, that's when I think I
Yeah.
feel best.
Yeah. I think that you are really good at helping people. I think that you're also really good at getting people to see maybe some different perspectives in a
Mhm.
very gentle way.
Yeah.
And I love that about you because one of the things that has become apparent to me, and I don't think it's like any new revelation or anything like that. But people sometimes have challenges really coming to me and saying, "Here's another idea," or "I'm challenged by the things that you're saying." Sometimes, and Kate is really good at. Coming to me and saying, "Hey, I've got some other perspectives or I have some other thoughts." And she knows that I'm actually very open to that. But what
Mhm.
I have found is that people are scared to even talk to me sometimes. And I reflect upon that, within myself, because I am a very direct person whenever I communicate with people. And I think sometimes people think that whenever I'm coming back to them, I'm telling them that I disagree with them, when in actuality, a lot of times I have a particular thought, and sort of maybe I'm seeing bigger pictures in things, and sometimes people don't necessarily see all those patterns or see the things that I'm seeing. And then sometimes I think that it is also that you provide me different avenues that I didn't necessarily think about as well. So it's just about being open to those conversations.
Yeah.
But when I think about this question, I I also see, for me, if I could do anything, what would it be? I feel like I'm doing that with Boy Bass,
Mhm.
just because I also see that in some ways I'm a little bit of a thought provoker. Like,
Yeah.
sometimes people get uncomfortable with the things that I'm saying because that challenges sometimes their beliefs. And so I think that a lot of times I see potential in people,
Mhm.
and I see sometimes their limiting beliefs that are sort of in the
Mhm.
way, which really
Yeah.
we'll get into more about fear. And so for me, I want people to be the best versions of themselves. I want
I
them to
love it.
release fear within themselves. I want to show them the possibilities within themselves that they may not even have known were possible.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I see you already doing a lot of that. You're so good at elevating people around you and bringing them to the next level. So I think you're there in a lot of ways. I think, in order to be as strategic as you are, Sarah, you have to have some confidence. And I think you combine the confidence and the directness, and it does, present a challenging front for someone to challenge, right? It's
Yeah,
it's challenging to challenge you, but um, what I've learned over the years is that you are still open, and even if your tone or the way you're questioning doesn't immediately feel like an openness, I know that it is.
uh
It's your directness and confidence that gives you kind of the tone. You know what I mean? So like
yeah.
you have to be like, well, no, you know, and but by the end of the conversations, usually, we're in alignment, and it takes a little bit of finessing to get there sometimes, which is perfectly okay, because that's what happens when you have really, when you have a very strategic person who can see ahead of things and knows where they're
Yeah.
going, that takes a hell of a lot of confidence and directness, right, to get there.
It does. The other thing that, I have realized is that sometimes I see patterns. Like I feel like almost like 12 steps ahead, but I got to slow down as well. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, but they can't see this, so it's like you got to take some time to like communicate,
Right.
the things that you're seeing.
Right.
And so, for me, that's what I get most excited about is helping people to be the best versions of themselves collectively.
Yeah.
But what I have found is that a lot of times people are very much tied to their fears. And that's what we're going to be talking about today is really release, how
Yeah.
release can actually help us there. And so let me see some of the comments. We have some more people joining us. And so Fridays are purple. Bruce says he loves the color purple and so
Yeah.
glad you're here with us, Bruce. Mom,
Good morning,
Sandy is
Mom.
joining us. Yes. Oh, and I think we have a new person. So I don't know if it's Tonka. And so he said, hello, nice talking. I'm from Nepal. So welcome.
Hey,
Yeah. And so
cool.
if you're a new person, just, give us a heart. Let us know. And so welcome. We hope you continue to join us. We'd love to also hear, if you could do anything, what would it be? What gets you
Yeah.
most excited? And Kim said, that is your superpower, Kate. And so Kate's amazing at being able to talk to people, anyone, just anyone.
I
So,
try.
uh, so Bruce said, grabbing a snack and OJ for Julie, and then I'm going out on an adventure. So it sounds like maybe he
Oh,
won't be able to be here the entire time, but so glad you were able to pop in. Maybe you'll be listening to us on the way.
yeah. And
Tasha,
have fun on your adventure.
I know. Let us know what you're doing.
Yeah.
Tasha said, happy Friday.
Good morning, Tasha.
And Kim said, you sometimes see strengths in us that we don't even realize are there.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep. And so Miss Jen said, good morning. And I love the energy around this discussion. And then Tonka said, thank you. I am listening. So great.
Wonderful.
So let's also now talk a little bit about when we think about new beginnings and the things that get us excited, what what is keeping us from being able to do that thing?
I think what keeps me from sometimes being in my purpose is fear and overwhelmed and being overwhelmed. So and that being overwhelmed comes from a bunch of different places. And I think there's less fear than there ever has been. Like I continue to kind of battle against fear and really just talking myself out of it. But for me, being overwhelmed is a huge thing because I have taken Jen and I have taken on so much in our life. So it's really easy to get kind of sucked in and to kind of lose track. And I have to balance that with some, that is the season of my life, right? That is, I am in the thick of parenting, like that's the season of my life. It won't be this way forever. But it's also, it's hard because you lose yourself a little bit when you're overwhelmed. You kind of lose yourself for a while, and it doesn't feel good.
Yeah. And so Bruce said, commitments and responsibilities create time constraints.
Yes, right.
Yeah. And Tasha said, yes, it's the overwhelm for me. Yeah. And so I can tell you that overwhelm is definitely one of the things for me as well. But when I think about also what sometimes keeps people from being able to do the new beginnings, it also has to do with what they would do without.
Mm,
And so let's take, for example, I actually had my husband and I actually met with the depth psychologist that I see together.
mhm.
And from that conversation, one of the things that we talked about is a lot of times when we are in relationships, there is something about that person that you need, that you maybe feel like you don't have that strength,
Right.
or you don't have, you need whatever it is that they're bringing. So when my husband and I started looking at each other, the thing that he brings for me is nurturing.
Mm,
So he has sort of fallen in a lot of ways into the person that is a lot of times taking care of the household, and things like that. What he needs from me is strength, and stability is super important to him.
mm.
But then when we had the deeper conversation, the question is, would we be okay if either of us decided to leave?
Yeah.
Because a lot of times when you're connected with someone, we start at whatever level we're at in life. And what I mean by level is, um, maybe like a spiritual level. It's more, I think of things in light and dark. So sometimes there's still a lot of shit we haven't dealt with in our life. So
Okay.
when we're attracted to people, we're attracted to their energy level, and we tend to match it when we first meet them.
Yeah.
Then energy wise, one might start going up and the other one continues to stay. And
Right.
so even though we were in alignment when we first met, we tend to grow and evolve as individuals. And so when we evolve, is that person coming with us or
Mm,
not? And
right.
so a lot of times we have to be okay with releasing and saying, this person isn't good for me.
Right.
And so when Jay started to really dig into that, for me, when I joined our relationship, I was at a point in my life that I knew I wanted a relationship.
Right.
I didn't need a relationship.
Yeah.
When Jay reflected, I'm not so sure that he was on that. And I'm not sure he is in that now, because
Yeah.
that scared him.
Yeah.
And for me, it's about being willing to say, you know what? I know my values, or I know my purpose. I know the things that I'm wanting in life, and being able to release people in love. Now, keep in mind, my husband and I are doing just fine. You know,
Yeah.
he's he is continuing, and one of the things he said is that I challenge him. I challenge him each time we do these types of things. He's like, I go in scared. Like, I go in like I don't want to really do this. He goes, but I always come out knowing more about myself. And he goes, and then I become an advocate for whatever it is. He goes, but I go in scared shitless.
Yeah.
And so, and that's what I think a lot of people see from me, is that when they connect with me, I think I scare them. But
Yes.
I also sometimes give them permission to be something that they're not.
Yeah. Right. 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 It's a combination of what you see in them. It's a combination of your authenticity, like you're
Yeah.
modeling it. I was going to say, when you said, I think for Jay that I sometimes challenge him, I was going to say, is there anyone in your life that you think
Ooh.
doesn't feel challenged by you? Um, right. Like, I was trying to think, like, I'm sure that, and that's okay, but because that's who you are. Like,
Yeah.
that's not a bad thing.
I can tell you Deborah is not challenged by me. The depth
Ah,
psychologist that I see, and that's
yeah,
what I love
that's
about her.
right. You need
Yeah,
that. You
I
need,
do.
yeah, right.
And I think that you're not challenged by me.
I know,
Yeah.
but it took
And
a while to get there.
Oh, yeah. And so I don't think that, yeah, I don't know. I feel like you and I were always very open with each other. I
Yes.
don't know whether you were challenged by me or not.
I wasn't
Um,
really, but it just took me a while to get to know you because
yeah,
you are like an onion. You've used that analogy before,
I
so
do.
like you think you know so, and then it's like, and then all of a sudden you'll just say something else and you'll be like, oh, holy shit, there's this whole other side that I didn't know about. So
Yeah,
it just took me a while to get to know all of the areas.
yeah, exactly,
Right.
exactly. And so when you think about those types of things in your life, and starting new, like think about a new job. Like maybe you're wanting to start a new job, and you're debating on whether you should start a new job. So it's the new beginning. And so when we think about new beginnings, for sometimes people immediately are scared. Like they
Mhm.
immediately think, oh crap, all of this has changed. Other
Right.
times, people are excited about it.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It's and it can be dialectical. Both can exist. You can
Mhm.
be excited and scared, right?
Yes.
Because that's totally a thing. But the you know, new beginnings um are all of that in one, right? And
Mhm.
I was just thinking as you were talking about, how when people start a new job, it's this just whole like big thing, and it kind of like all of the little things kind of ricochet in those
Mhm.
few first weeks, first whatever.
Yes.
I was thinking about like what happens in professional services a lot of times.
Yeah.
And it's almost like they're starting a new job all the time, right?
Mm.
Because the work itself is
Hmm.
it's not transactional most of the time, right? So like
Yeah.
if you're in a retail space, somebody comes in, you can say
Ah,
that that's a little new beginning for that tiny relationship where somebody comes in, buys something and leaves.
yes.
But in professional services, we like on a regular basis are starting new projects with new people, new
Yeah.
beginnings all the time.
I love that. I
Yeah.
hadn't connected the analogy to that, but you're so right. And when you think about, I always got excited every time I got a new client. And I
A new
think that
yeah.
people, yeah, when you get a new project. Now, sometimes when you are dealing with difficult personalities, you're like, "Oh shit, I don't like this new beginning."
Right.
It's figuring out how to have that connection. And I know Jen Lacey, who's was on listening, she's super good at that. She's super good at helping people that when they connect, how is it that you can make the first connection exciting? How can
Mm.
you get on a deeper level with people or get people engaged? And so when we think about new beginnings, it's thinking about the possibilities and getting people excited around the new beginnings versus the potential of fear with the new beginnings.
Yeah, yeah. I love making it as exciting as possible, and getting to the deeper faster, right?
Mhm.
So like that's what can really you've all had those we've all had those connections, right? Like I
Yeah.
think your and my connection was pretty similar to that. As soon as we started working together, we were like, okay, yeah, there's something there, like
Uh-huh.
we have to keep working together and figure out more ways to do things together. I had the same thing with Jenna. I had the same thing with a friend, Leanne. Like you meet them and you just are like, you know, and the reason is for whatever reason you're able to get deep faster. So
Yeah.
when we talk about Jen Lacey and her, helping make those connections really exciting, I think that's what is the exciting part is the ability to, in a safe way, connect faster and deeper, you know, because then you're like you're not, I don't want to say it's a waste, but you don't have to take all the time to get to know them, to kind of feel around, you're already there. You're already at the core of the person once you're deep enough.
Yeah. Maria said connection is inherently scary, at least for me.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that that's important to think about is for some people, opening up and being vulnerable is super scary because when we think about the fact of as you start to connect with people, a lot of times we have this guard up on ourselves, which also allows people to not really connect to us. So if we can
Right.
find ways to sort of put down the guard, see people, allow them to be seen and heard, and when we start to think about different personalities, this is one of the things that I've been challenged with internally is that we have particular people that are voices that are constantly speaking, me being one of them, Kate being one of them, other
Yeah.
people being, but what we want is we also want the individuals that also have amazing thoughts and things that they have going on to be heard. And so how can we build that connection for those individuals to be heard and their thoughts to be vocalized? And so I'm going to pull up Jen. She said, people fear new connections because of the insecurities of not being accepted. Ooh,
Mhm.
we just have to lean into helping them feel that they matter, that
Mm.
we see them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's a part of what I'm able to do is I'm able to see people,
Yes.
or at least I'm curious enough to want to see them,
Yep.
you know. um and I think that's a part of it, you know. And,
Mhm,
I also want to go back to Maria's comment too, like about how
mhm,
connection is scary.
mhm.
I think these two things are connected, you know. Maria and what Jen are saying, they're pretty similar
Yes.
in the way that, you know, it's scary because we might not be accepted, and the more vulnerable you are, the scarier it is, right?
Uh-huh.
Because, you know, you're going in with very little protection, you know, you're going in
Mhm,
deep. For people that like to stay at a more kind of like shallow
mhm,
surface level, you know, they're doing that because it's safe.
mhm.
It's really safe for them to do that. um
Yeah.
and and that's okay, you know, to some degree. That's how they're choosing. But um i I feel like some sadness for them because um
Mhm.
there's, you know, there's more to them, and there's more to the people around them that they aren't, you know, getting a chance to live.
Yeah, that's funny you said that because in my session with my husband, he said, "Well, I'm just surface level," and she goes, "Ooh, let's dive into that." And so we did some reflective. She allowed him to just close his eyes and visualize, and she took him to a creek and said, you know, help me understand what you're seeing. And what ended up coming out was a fear. It was a fear of a time that we almost lost our daughter.
Oh
And
my God.
my husband almost, I feared
Yep.
that I almost lost him. And that fear was coming out of him. And
Hmm.
so when you think about, and so one of the things she was teaching us is that when you have that fear, you're still holding on to it. So you're replaying that memory. So that happened to you once, but every time you replay that fear of whatever it is that happened to you, now it may have happened 1,000 times.
Mm.
Your body is feeling that every single time. So if you can change the story, and what she did is said, okay, imagine Riley and what, you know, put her somewhere else now. And so he put her up on a rock to change the story, you
Mm.
know. And then if you look at it in a different light, Jay was actually a hero. He jumped in without a life vest to
Right.
go after our daughter. And so if you start to look at it, instead of the fear of losing someone, it was the fear of you being a hero and putting yourself, your life aside to go help someone. When you start changing that story of the shit that happens to you, you then find courage and the good in the trauma and the things that have happened to you.
Yeah, exactly. um And that can happen with a fear like that, right? Something you experience, like that's about the attachment, right? So like
Yeah.
to you and Jay and Riley in those moments, you were afraid that you were going to be, detached from the people that you love and need the most, right?
Correct. Yes.
That can happen. Anything that's on replay in your head is, that connection to your body and to your other thoughts, like that's all playing a role in who you are in that moment, right?
Yeah.
Even if you don't feel as though you're reliving it, but if it still rents some space in your head,
Yes. Yes.
it's affecting you.
It really is. I want to get into, so the reason that we did New Beginnings specifically is because of the eclipse that's coming up. And so
Yeah.
the eclipse is an opportunity for new beginnings. And Kate, do you want to talk a little bit about like the symbolism of the eclipse that's coming up on the 8th?
Yeah. So eclipses aren't like unique in and of themselves. Like they happen all the time in the universe. We don't necessarily see them, but they're happening all the time. But a solar eclipse, and one like this is really unique. And what all of the stuff out there is saying is, for all of the energy in the universe to kind of be in that moment to create this really unique experience, it's also a great opportunity to kind of harness that energy and to create a new beginning. And it's also happening on a new moon, so it's like a bunch of stuff all together that are and there's lots that you can go into this, like the lunar cycle, all of this is being pulled, all of the energy. I mean, there's science behind all of this in terms of how much our world is defined by the lunar cycle and everything that's happening between, gravitational pull on our Earth and the rest of the universe. But it's a very cool opportunity to kind of, like I said, harness that energy and really focus on what you want to let go of, what you need to release, and what intentions you want to set. What the renewal will mean to you. What are my new intentions for how I kind of envision myself renewing? Every new moon you have that opportunity, but this is kind of like a super new moon because of the solar eclipse on top of it.
Yeah, I love that. So Tasha said, that's so true. Replaying negative things is like putting yourself through torture over and over again. And so when you think about that, when we're caught up in that, this is an opportunity to really release. It's
Yeah.
about releasing. And so it might be releasing control. It might be releasing your negative thought patterns. It might be releasing it's ultimately releasing also your shadow side. So it's first, over these past several years, it's been an opportunity for us to really think about our shadow side. And what I mean by shadow side is the things that don't serve you. And we all have a light and a dark side to us. And so when you're doing, for example, Clifton Strength Finders, it's you find what your strengths are, but you also find out the areas that you might have as blind sides. So the things that maybe because you're so good at this, you're blindsided as you might have the dark side or the shadow side of this is how people might interpret you.
Right.
Or this is how people might perceive you. And so it's that light and dark. And so for new beginnings, it's about releasing, needing to control the situation. And what I have found is that it's more about not being attached to the outcome. So it is knowing your values, knowing what will make you flourish, and what it is you need to be able to flourish as an individual. And then are the settings in a place that allow you to be able to be your best self. And if they're not, that's an invitation for a new beginning. And it
Right.
means being able to be willing to walk away from everything, knowing that something better is on the other side. And that's what scares the shit out of people, is that they may not be willing to walk away from everything. But the moment you do is when people start to realize, one, your value that you bring, or maybe they don't. And then that's allowing you to say, okay, I'm not being seen. I'm not being heard. I'm not ever going to be seen or heard. I've done,
Right.
what I can. So if me leaving doesn't open them up to seeing the value, then you weren't meant to be there.
Right. Right. And that happens in all sorts of scenarios. That happens in your relationships and work and everywhere.
Everything.
But it's a hard truth to face, that
Mhm.
there's so much beyond our control. What is in our control is our mindset, and the way that we take care of ourselves, and the way that we react, and our own behaviors and our actions. So because of that, you do like, it sounds like lip service, right? Every day you have an opportunity to have a new beginning.
Yep.
But I kind of like to think of it as, I know I have that opportunity every day. Do I, are there a lot of days where I don't wake up feeling like, woo, today's the first day of the rest of my life? Like, a lot of times it's not how, it happens, right? But like, I still know that I have control over the thoughts that I'm having when I wake up, right? So like,
Yeah.
I can take an opportunity now in preparation for this solar eclipse, and if it's not the solar eclipse, fine, maybe it's something else.
Yeah.
But you can purposely take yourself up to the brink of a new beginning very intentionally by
Mhm.
saying, here's who I am, here's what I want, here's what I don't want anymore, and I'm going
Mhm.
to make a decision, just like when people make the decisions to not eat sugar anymore, or to not drink alcohol anymore because it's not good for them, right? We all do these types of things
Yeah.
because we maybe a doctor told us to, or we have to, or but we make new beginnings all the time. And they happen, they maybe just don't happen with as much thought sometimes,
Mhm.
right? But we have an opportunity here to like draw our energy together and really define something and move forward into a place of new beginnings, a renewal that is, encompassing all that we want for ourselves and each other. Like,
Yeah.
who doesn't want kindness and love, right? Like, we all want that. If we all move toward a space with the solar eclipse coming, if we all move toward kindness and love and light, so much more could be truly released, and we could kind of all level up.
I love that. So I think this is Alan that said this, and it goes along with what you're saying. Mindset is such a powerful influencer to how one looks at and approaches new beginnings. I love to embrace the unknown and the new, and perhaps it's because I was raised as a TCK, third culture kid. And so I don't know what a third culture kid
Yeah.
is. And so I'd love to learn more about that, Alan, on that perspective. But I love the things that you said, is that when we approach things, and this is one of the things that was funny that was pointed out to me, is that when we deal with a challenge, we might think, oh my God, this person, like especially clients and projects, so I don't see them necessarily as a challenge or a problem. I see them as an opportunity. And
Mhm.
so because I've switched my mindset in, this person would not reach out to me if they didn't want help. If they
Right.
didn't want us to fix the situation, they would say, fuck you. I'm moving on. I'm finding someone else.
Right.
But the fact that they're reaching out to you is them begging you to take an opportunity to fix the situation.
Right.
So if we look at it as an opportunity and say, this person wants to connect to us, this person wants to work with us, how can we get an alignment to be in agreement with each other? How can we then be accountable to each other that we're all doing what it is we need to do? But until we get an alignment with that person and understand what it is that they want, we can't have any agreement
Right.
on it. Like, I need to understand what you want, you need to understand what we need, and vice versa. And if those things aren't in alignment, that's okay. We need to agree that we'll part ways. And by the way, I'll also help you find someone that can help you with
Right.
whatever it is that you want. So I see them as opportunities, because the person wouldn't have come to me and asked me for help if they didn't actually care and see some value there.
Right. Yeah, for sure. And that is the mindset, right? That is exactly what I think Alan was talking about.
Yeah.
And what works so well, you know. And I mean, I love challenges, but it's really because I see them as opportunities.
Yes.
But I love challenges. You know, I love people giving me the messy and me sorting it out and getting everybody, you know, on the same page again.
You're so good at that. Like, you just, the way you're able to connect with people, they just feel seen and heard by you. Where I have found I like let you do the connection type stuff. And I'm like, I see the problem and I see how it is the pieces that can fit together and how it is we can solve the challenge.
Right.
So that's the biggest thing as you start to go into new things. It's finding those people that complement you. So the things that I'm not good at, a lot of those things Kate's actually good at. And so I rely upon her for that. And that is what real leadership is about within companies, within projects, is saying, you know what? I recognize that person's not good at this particular job. So it's not always about, sometimes it's about getting that person that skill set.
Right. Training
Sometimes, yeah, sometimes it's evaluating that maybe they're just not good at that.
Yeah.
And we just can't continue to try to shove that person into that particular role. So it's like, how can we find someone to then complement that person to help them with what it is, but recognize them and see them for the talents that they actually have.
Yeah, yeah, that's so key in a lot of ways, right? Because especially in organizations, but even in your family, like we try really hard to do that as parents, and it's often, I think, just kind of disregarded. A lot of parents are like, well, everyone needs to know how to do this thing, right? Even if we think about it just in the simple way, like we all need to know how to do, you know, how to clean a bathroom. We all need to know how to do that, right?
No,
You know,
I don't need to know how to clean a bathroom, Kate. No, just kidding.
yeah, maybe, but you know, like, and then you know, at the end of the day, there's a bunch of things that have to get done, and why not you know, make sure the people that are doing those things are the ones that are well suited for that job. Right?
Yes, please allow me just to hire someone to do that.
Yes.
It's not that I don't know how to do it. It's that I really don't want to do it.
Right. Right.
Like, it does not excite me whatsoever. But for whatever reason, there are people in the world that want to clean. Like, I don't know, maybe it's the fresh start of things that they like to sort of clean up the mess. And so for me,
I love doing dishes. I love doing dishes. It's a small thing that I can fix immediately. You know, I can know exactly how to do it. I can make it look nice afterward. And while it's happening, I'm just focus on that. And you know, and I'm not thinking about much else, or I'm trying not to think about much else.
Yeah. And Eric is joining us. He said he's late this morning, but good badass morning. So welcome, Eric. And so I want to circle back on one of the things that I said and then get into another area of new beginnings. And so one of the things I want to emphasize that I said is that not being tied to the outcome. So when you think about the new beginnings, I want you to continue to sort of repeat that mantra. So when you're coming to someone about something, don't go into the situation saying, this is how it has to be. Understand what you need from the situation. So for me, I always go back to, are we in alignment? Are we in agreement? And do we have accountability to know that each of us is going to be able to do the things that we've committed to do? So think about that even with a project, from a professional perspective. But I should say, and, because I'm trying to also be mindful of the words that I use. And we should also be open to flow. And what I mean by that is that Jesse actually, I think it was Jesse that pointed this out about me. He said that what he liked about me is I added structure, but I allowed in that structure flow of maneuvering. So it wasn't so confined that people didn't feel there was flexibility or flow. And when you think about the shows that we do, I come in with a loose agenda.
Right.
But we take the conversation wherever it needs to go. So we allow for the flexibility of moving and interacting with people and our thoughts going to different directions. So in life, when you think about your new beginnings, understand that there are things that you need to have in place, that that these are your values, as an example, and those are things I'm not willing to compromise, as you say.
Yeah.
So as long as you're meeting those things, that allows you to flow back and forth to, well, maybe I'm supposed to go here, or maybe I'm supposed to go here. So flow is super important, and not being tied to the outcome. I have to have this. No, I need to feel happy. I need to feel seen. I need to feel heard. And I need to feel that the people that I'm working with are accountable and will step up to the plate and work as hard as I am. That, those may be the things you need. Or maybe it's, I need respect. I need money. I need, whatever. And so when you think about a job, for example, when you're starting a new job, a lot of times people are worried about the money. And I agree that that is important. Like, you have to be able to have the money to be able to do the things that will help you to survive in life. Eventually, people get to the point where, okay, I have the money, and it then becomes something else. Are they wanting recognition? Are they just wanting, respect? Are they wanting to grow? In what ways are they wanting to grow? So we have to understand people have different needs. Not everybody is the same. So until we understand what that need is, sometimes it's also about the fear. Like, they're afraid of being, judged by their boss. Or, and if you do something, then their boss might look at them, in a negative light. So we have to understand the motives and the things that are important to people in things. And I want to get more into like the money aspect of things, but I don't know if you have specific thoughts, but we'd also talked about like scarcity mode as well.
Yeah. So your values really are the one thing that you shouldn't kind of compromise on, unless you really shouldn't compromise on your values. You compromise on little things, and maybe you end up tweaking your values or whatever as you learn and grow. But even when I think about money, what happens with money for a lot of people is, when you aren't yet financially stable, when when you're still kind of in a survival mode or scarcity kind of mode, it's really hard to think positively about money, right? It's really hard to. And so when you think about what you want it's a very tangible thing. I want more money.
Mhm.
Like that's a very tangible thing. But you're not really chasing the money. What you're chasing is the feeling that financial stability gives you.
Yes.
The
Yeah.
feelings you have when you get to spend money the way that you want to, or you're chasing the feelings.
Mhm.
And that's, I think, a really, really important part that you brought up.
Yeah, and so when we think about a lot of times I hear, "I need money,"
Mhm.
and so when we fear we won't have enough of it, we start to also do things that sometimes are not in alignment with our higher self. So we
Mhm.
start to do things that maybe aren't in our best interest. And what I have found is when we worry about money, I'm also not trusting the process because
Mhm.
the universe is trying to take you down to be the best version of yourself and to get there. But it's overcoming the fear of not having enough money and trusting in the process that it's wanting you to learn some stuff along the way to then be able to flourish. I
Right.
I have gotten to a point in my life, and I know this is probably, I do have money, and so but one of the things that I learned early on is I even when I didn't have money, I didn't worry about not having money because I always knew in my ability and I'm also willing to start from scratch. I'm not concerned of like if I were thrown into a situation and I had no money, I am confident in myself that I know that I have developed the skills to be able to quickly be able to find ways
Mhm.
to do things. So when you get to a point that you're willing to go, I'm okay with the new beginning. I'm okay with starting over. When we're not okay with starting over, that means we still have work to do.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Because it's the truth is, for most of us that are probably engaging in this platform, right, that um, everything will turn out okay,
Mhm.
right? Like it really usually does. Even if
Mm.
you know, go through rough patches, it usually turns out okay.
Yeah.
We're lucky. We're fortunate to be among the
Yeah.
middle-ish class, right? Um, but so that's not to say there's there's a great number of people in our country that are stuck in this cycle of poverty,
Yes.
and it it's hard to think your way out of that. I'm
Yeah.
not saying it's not possible. I know it is. I know it is. I've seen it. But when you have everything around you, your environment supporting it, your feet, like everything reinforcing this, scarcity mindset,
Mhm.
it's really hard to get yourself out of it. Um,
Mhm.
so I don't want to minimize like that
Oh, no.
challenge because it's huge.
Yep.
But at the same time, it is, we've all read the stories, we've all seen the stories. We know that miraculous things can happen, and those don't. I don't believe that those happen just um, because of coincidences. They happen
Mhm.
because people put their intentions out there and they go after what they want and they figure out how to get it, right?
Yeah.
And they do that by battling their fears,
Yes.
by focusing on, you know, making their mindset open for those opportunities and to see all of the different things that could be. So,
Yeah. I encourage people that what scares you is what you should actually run to, not run away from. And so
right,
when we are triggered, when we are scared, it means that's some work that we need to do. The moment we get to a point that it's like, okay, maybe this isn't the path for me. Maybe I'm supposed to go down something else, and you're willing to say, all right, let's try something new.
right.
And the moment you release that and say, I'm open to the possibilities, is when all of a sudden the universe continues to take you down the right path, because you're moving towards the light of your purpose.
Mm-hmm.
And so the universe will provide as
Right.
long as you're willing to release what you're scared of.
Yeah. Right. It's just like if you say, okay, I want to walk on this balance beam. The first thing I have to do is I have to step up on the balance beam, and so you, in your head, you tactically break it out and you make the decisions and you focus your mind on, okay, so I have to step on the balance beam. Okay, that means I have to lift my leg up, put my foot on the balance beam, move my weight. So it's the same thing. It's just, it's less tactical, it's less in your face, but it's the same exact principle that you just have to get your mindset into, if it's not serving me, then I have to release it. And I have to truly release it.
Yes.
And open and be ready for the new beginning, because that is what I am made for. That's what is my purpose right now. That is my path. I don't know what the outcome is going to be. I don't know if I'm going to get the job I want. I don't know if I'm going to, do these things. But if I can't let go of the fear and release the things that I know for sure aren't helping me, like, yeah, this for sure is going to be a problem to me getting there. That's your first step. Like, I couldn't look at the balance beam and say, well, I want to stand on that, so I'm going to lay my head against it. Like, like,
I'm going to hug it. I'm holding on for dear life.
Right. Like, putting my head against the balance beam is not standing. That's not the right way to start that. Right.
Exactly.
Or to just say, I can never get on that balance beam because I'm scared. So I don't know how to ask my brain to put my leg on it because it's too scary.
Well, and the thing is that there might be some situations where maybe you're supposed to seek guidance and help from other people too. And so if you are scared of that balance beam, well, maybe there's someone else that can help you understand techniques of how you might do that. So again, it's an invitation to, maybe it's you need to learn some more. And that's one of the things I've really learned, is that over the past 2 years, I've really been digging into myself. And I knew that there was something else out there for me, but I hadn't figured out what it was. And it wasn't until, a little bit more than a year ago that I was like, wow, I'm like, here's the idea, Kate, that I have. And for me, what we're doing now really has continued to expand me in meeting with different people with different talents, and also seeing all of the things that I may not know and understand, but I'm continuing to expose myself to new ideas and new thoughts patterns. And so many times we've been programmed to think a particular way, or we've had something happen to us that programs us to now think a particular way. And the moment we release that and say, I wonder why I'm feeling this way, I wonder why I'm thinking this way, with a reflective perspective, it allows us to be able to understand more our unconscious, which is 90% of the reasons why we do shit in life, and say, I wonder, when did I experience this before? When did I experience, when did I have this feeling before? And then we then might attach it to, oh, I'm still learning the lesson from that thing that happened to me.
Right. Like, Jay's still learning the lesson.
Yeah.
That he was a hero in that moment, and
Yeah.
and that's how it had to go. He needed to be the hero for whatever reason. That thing had to happen in order for it to evolve the way that it did. I loved when I recently had a chance to talk with Deborah, and she shared, about how 90% of our thoughts, or that we only, wait, what is there's a
unconscious. 90% of our unconscious thoughts impact us and basically put us in action
and they're
toward things, and we don't even realize why it is we're doing things sometimes.
right. It's crazy
Yeah.
to really think about, right? And so that self-awareness, that curiosity is so key. And I'll just tell you a quick story about my therapist and my dad, right? So for the longest time, Jenna and I thought my dad must have like real chronic PTSD or something. And that could be the case because the man has been through so many really intense things, and with his with he lost two wives, very similar, very like stretched apart, but like kind of here today, gone tomorrow type of stuff, and really traumatic, kind of tragic ways. But when Jenna lost her mom, Jenna was really struggling. I remember asking my dad, like, how did you get through this? How did you get through this when Wendy died?
Mm-hmm.
How did what do you do? What can I help? I need to help her. She's like, so struggling. And he gave me the and it's used frequently, but he says, what I like to do is, these thoughts are going to happen and they keep happening. But what I like to do is I like to picture them as leaves on a tree. And as they fall into I just watch them fall into the river, and the river washes them down, and they just go downstream.
Yeah.
And it was one of those moments where I realized, man, this man is actually just has some really good fucking coping skills, and I don't know about them because I don't ask him enough what he does. But it's so true. And then that circled back to like 5 or 6 years later when I was in therapy with my current therapist, Taylor, who's amazing. And one of the biggest things that he tries to help me do is to see those thoughts for what they are, especially when they are like negative and recurrent and they're irrational and they're whatever. But to also get curious if I'm feeling moved to do anything with those thoughts. It's curiosity that needs to be there, nothing more.
Right.
Because the moment because so many of our thoughts are negative in nature, scientifically, like none of us have control of that. We're just human. We all have like 75% of our thoughts are negative.
Yeah.
That's just that's our cross to bear.
Well, and we don't even know all the thoughts we're having because I don't know, she threw out a huge number. Like we have, 90,000 thoughts within one day, and we don't even know about 75% of them or something like that. I can't remember, but it was like we only know a small portion of what we're actually thinking and feeling.
Right. And there's a very large portion of thinking and feeling that is negative in nature. Mm-hmm. It's a part of how we were developed, as humans, right? Yeah. To protect ourselves or to whatever. But when you think about how you want to proceed when you are slammed with all of these thoughts and all of this stuff that you don't even know is kind of controlling your actions, it is curiosity that is your ticket. That's your ticket for the ride. If because when you get curious about those things, that's when you have insights. That's when you have more self-awareness. That's when you have direction. That's when your values come up. You're like, oh, okay, well, that really actually doesn't align with my value, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And it sounds like lip service. It sounds like, like foo-foo, like, new age crap sometimes. It does even to me, and I believe it all.
Yeah.
But like at the same point, if I'm going to do anything in life, most of the time I'm directing my thoughts towards getting it. There's no reason why I can't apply the same like rigor and process to these thoughts that are happening beyond my control anyway. Yeah. Right.
Tasha said 75% are negative and 95% is repetitive. Yeah.
It's daunting to think about, right?
Yeah. There was also another comment that came in that I wanted to I thought it was funny. Come do my dishes, Kate.
Okay.
And then Bruce said, I actually love organizing and cleaning. So, it's understanding those things. And so when we think about new beginnings, the biggest thing that I want people to go away with is one, not being tied to the outcome.
Yeah.
Two, being open to the flow of how the universe might want to take you. And really releasing the fears that we have and recognizing them. And as Kate was saying, being curious as to what it is that we're maybe being drawn to that we still need to learn. And I think when we do that, we then become much more able to accept the new things that might come our way and things we may not have even thought of.
Right. Yeah, exactly. I think that's what it's all about is looking at the new beginnings and the possibility of renewal with that opportunity mindset, right? Rather than letting the negative and the repetitive thoughts win, because we all have them.
Yeah.
Maybe that's something we need to be talking about more often too. Like just randomly in interactions or meetings, like, hey, whatever you're thinking right now is wrong. Most likely. We've got a 75% chance that you're telling yourself some bullshit right now.
That's awesome.
I mean, they're out there. That's true. And it's crazy to think about. Right. But we're all a victim of it. And it's a unifier. We're all doing it. We're all having it. We all, and there's those of us that are a little better at battling it need to kind of show the rest.
Yes. And so Tasha added 60,000 thoughts per day, and 80 to 90% of them are unknown. And then she said, as you can see, those statistics, really stunned her. And so it is amazing when you realize that maybe you're not really in control.
Right.
You think you're in control, but your unconscious is continuing to lead you down a path, and it's about being curious to understand why it's taking you down different paths.
Yeah, I agree. It's I think there is so much that happens to us that is beyond our control, but there's the little things that we can control. We need to do so with curiosity and openness as much as possible. I think that's what's going to serve us all in the end. I love Bruce's comments. We got to pull it up.
Okay.
Where he says,
you want to read it?
Yeah, he said, this has been a great show, but I think it has raised an interesting issue, which you have touched on, which is items of reluctance. And I would love a show on the potential pathologies and etiologies behind the more common reluctancies. I love that. Like procrastination. I don't know. I've been seeing a lot lately about procrastination in my feed. Maybe that's because I'm a procrastinator, but I don't know. I'm like, how does Facebook know these things? But
I used to be a procrastinator. And in certain things I still am. What I've discovered on procrastination is that it has to do with things you really don't want to do.
Yes.
And you don't procrastinate on the things you actually want to do.
Right. And then sometimes what looks like procrastination just looks like it's just a confidence that you need to harness, right?
Yes.
So for a long time, when I would do my Vantage Point showcase demos for work, I would do a lot of prep, and And Sarah was like, I don't even prep anymore. And I said to myself, like, I want to get to that point. I totally understand where she is, but I'm once I get there, I'll know it. And I got there and I did it, to the point where now I can just like do a tiny bit of prep and just go for it. But I have the confidence that I can do it. Right. And so,
Yeah.
I don't see that as procrastination anymore. I see that as, this is the way that I'm most effective.
Mm-hmm.
But in general, I do think it would be a great show for us to talk about procrastination and like common things that we're all kind of reluctant about, or what we do about things that if we're seeing those patterns in our lives,
I've also learned that procrastination might also be about the fact that you still need to mull over the uncomfortableness that you might be feeling as well. Sometimes we procrastinate, a lot of times when we're overwhelmed. And so we don't know how to solve the issue. So therefore, we continue to procrastinate on it because we haven't received the answers to give us the confidence of moving forward as well.
Yeah. Yeah. And then I want to there's a couple of things that I'm procrastinating on, and I can't figure out what the fucking reason is at all.
Yeah.
And I'm curious about it. I just don't know why. I just, I've got to just do these things. Maybe I'm just going to do them this weekend. I don't know why I procrastinated on it.
All right. So a future show, we're going to help Kate with her procrastination and dig in and figure out like what's going on here.
Yes. 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 Hopefully I will be done with this particular these particular tasks by the time we do the show. And we can just talk about it in retrospect.
That sounds good. Well, I hope that today's show really maybe made you think about your own life and maybe the things that you are wanting to do in your life, but the limitations that maybe you're putting upon yourself in the fears of being able to do it. And for me, it's really about just digging in and understanding what really makes you happy and being okay with the outcome of, I'm going to go down the path of what I think I need to do and being okay that it may fail. That's okay.
Right.
It may be amazingly successful, but just know what your values are, understand what's important to you, and do those things. Ask for it. Have the conversation.
Right. It's like one of our previous shows where we talked about, whether you needed clarity before or after you act.
Mm-hmm.
This is a really common thing, right? Like we don't know what truly is going to happen, but if we are following our values and we let go of the results, like I know I need this and I need these people to be on board with me for it to work in this scenario.
Yes.
And if they aren't, I can't control that anymore. I can't fix that. So in order to follow my values, I have to let go of all of that. I have to release it. And it's huge, and it's, it's harder to do than to say, but when you do, you're often completely surprised by the results, right? Because new doors open, your vulnerability, that is a vulnerable fucking thing to just say, I am going, and because my values are telling me to go, I'm going, and I don't know if it's going to work out, but your vulnerability guides the way, and then you're often surprised by the results.
I agree with you more than you probably know. And so just in life in general, I approach things now from a fearless perspective. My daughter has done a great job also of modeling that to me.
Yes.
And I think I probably have been the person that's helped her to be that person. So think about the people in your life that scare the shit out of you. And go towards them and see what it is that you're so scared about. Because they will help you to reflect upon yourself to better understand the things that you should learn. And so
Ooh.
for me, I think that I scare people a lot.
Mhm.
I also hopefully make them look inside as well, and that they're willing to reflect on why it is that I scare them.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I hope that so too, because it's hard. It's kind of lonely being the person that scares other people.
Yeah,
It can be,
it can
right?
be.
Yeah. So, I want more people to, like, open up to the idea that you're here to help. Um,
Mm.
you're not here to scare them,
No.
you just your values are defined, and you're confident, and you're direct, and that's a beautiful thing. And I hope for more of that for all of our audience,
Yeah.
and especially going into this really cool thing. So take time on Monday. This is only something that happens once in a while. I mean, I know we all don't
Yes.
have the freedom um, to just drop stuff sometimes, but a lot of us do, and we'll just make a different choice. And I urge you to just make a choice to just kind of experience what the solar eclipse is bringing to us. It's because we're not going to see it for a long, long, long time. So it's a scientific marvel, but it's also, real opportunity to kind of see the release and renewal play out in the world around us.
I love that. Beautifully said. Joel just, said great discussion this morning. Have a great weekend. And
Thank
I
you.
know my mom is actually going up to see it in person. So she's, from what I understood, going up to Missouri, where it's going to be going across. And
Yeah.
so I'm hoping that that's amazing.
Yeah, we're gonna hopefully get a glimpse here in Wisconsin, of it. So
Yeah,
we're gathering and excited.
I love that. So, well, thank you everyone for joining us. I hope today was very um, provoking and allowed you to look at different ways that you might view how you're, the possibilities that are available to you in your life.
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Happy Friday, folks. Go on and be your badass selves. Release what does not serve you. Look for the renewal in the everyday, every moment, new beginnings.
Love that. Thank you, Kate.
Thank you.